guys, welcome back to our channel. I'm Callie.
I'm Bean.
And I'm Brittany.
So today we are going to do our recent reads and who got to another 5, which was me. I win. But I have a total of 7.
I have a total of 7. I got to it not long after she did.
She's 5. And she got 5.
She got 5. Yay! We're doing good here.
So Brittany's going to start us off.
So I started with the Selection Series by Kiera Cass, and so far overall I've given it a 4-star rating. Broken down the Selection, I gave a 3.5. The Elite, I gave a 4. And the 1, I also gave a 4. So the Selection Series is set in a dystopian society where the continent of North America has become a single country. And there's a monarchy and a caste system, which gets kind of complicated, so I won't get into that right now. Overall, America is a 17-year-old girl, and she's selected to compete in a bachelor-like competition called The Selection with 34 other girls for the love of Prince Maxon and to become his wife and the next princess of the country. Throughout the story, America actually struggles letting go of the love she has for the boyfriend she leaves behind and falling in love with the prince, who is doing everything he can to win her over. There's also a rebellion going on throughout the country, so it ties in with the rebel forces trying to end the competition and overthrow the monarchy, which leads to intense moments throughout the story, which is really exciting.
I'm the one that told her to read the Selection because the first 3 books I read was The Heir, The Crown, and Happily Ever After by Kiera Cass. So The Heir, I gave 4 stars. So The Heir and The Crown follow kind of like an epilogue story after the initial 3 books of the Selection. Followed one of the children of the main characters from the previous story, and it's in her point of view instead of America's this time, which I really enjoyed, but the main character was kind of a brat, which is why I gave this one 4 stars. I like how these ones were a lot more family-oriented, because we did already follow these beloved characters. We get to see them again, and we get to see them having families, and after the chaos that was the one, kind of rebuild and focus more on their families than on the caste system or the rebellion or anything like that. So I really enjoyed The Heir. Just this, the teenager pissed me off. So naturally, I read The Crown next, which I really loved. I gave The Crown 4.5 stars because there was a lot of character development from The Heir, and this was just the perfect, sweet ending to the entire Selection world. We got everything that any fan could have wanted from the series in this ending. It was sweet. There was stuff that happens. Spoilers. Because she still hasn't read them.
Getting there.
And then I read Happily Ever After, which I gave 4 stars just because this was sweet. It was just a bunch of little stories. We followed the original queen. We follow in Maxon's perspective, Aspen's. We get extra stuff, where are they now kind of stories, which I thought were really sweet and really cute and gave a lot of perspective to the stories. Because we always, with the Selection, you only see it from America's point of view, so it was very interesting to see how the other characters interpreted the events that were happening in the Selection series. So overall, I gave this series a 4 out of 5 stars. It was sweet, it was cute, it put a smile on my face. I would reread it again if I was in a bad mood.
Alright, so I'm going to start off by talking about a series that I managed to read. Actually, yes, I read the entire series, which is not on brand for me.
Scandal!
Yeah, that never happens. I usually read 1 a month or something like that.
Or forget about it completely.
That too. But this one, I knew I would forget about it if I didn't sit down and read them all at once, and I was right. So basically, this is the Queen of Hearts series by Colleen Oakes. The first one is The Queen of Hearts. And I give this one 3 out of 5. The story got better throughout the book. However, this plot just jumped around a lot, and it really... Some of the scenes just did not make sense. I didn't understand where they were going. And the main character, she's such a brat. Oh my god. She's such a brat. She just, is the most entitled little person ever. The story was reminiscent, I guess, of an origin story for the Queen of Hearts that we know from Alice in Wonderland. It took place in Wonderland, in the castle where the Queen of Hearts, the future Queen of Hearts, was born. Her name is Dinah, and she's a complete and utter brat. And she's just entitled, and she just kind of feels like she owns the world.
So princessy things.
Yeah! Obnoxious princessy things.
We kind of have a theme going with our characters.
The difference here, her father hates her. Absolutely hates her guts and does not want her around. She's basically become this really sour person who just hates everyone around her.
So she's the epitome of daddy issues.
Yeah!
Okay.
Yes, she is.
Yikes.
Very much so. But the first book really kind of confused me a little bit because one of the main characters in this book was introduced in the second to last chapter. So, like, 10 pages before the end. And they're like, here, look, this whole brand new creature, ready, set, go. And I was like, what? The second book in the series was Blood of Wonderland. And I actually think this was my favorite book of the series, which almost never happens with the trilogy, because usually second books suffer from...
Second book syndrome?
Exactly. And this one really didn't, because... So basically, she used to run away from the castle.
Naturally. As princesses do.
As they do. I enjoyed this book much more than the first one. This one really got into much more of like what politically was going on, whereas the future Queen of Wonderland basically learns what's going on in her kingdom. Like, she has no idea. She's been so stuck up and so out of everything that she has no idea what's going on. And she ends up meeting this tribe of people, this other civilization in the mountains, and I thought it was really cool because they basically kidnapped her while she was running away in this forest with this monstrous creature. Anyways, she is brought into this civilization and they don't accept her right away, like, as a potential leader. They actually hate the people from Wonderland. The thing that confused me about this was that there wasn't a timeline. It just... scenes happened and you kind of had to figure out when it was in the story, so that was a little bit confusing. The third book in the series and the finale was War of the Cards, and I thought this was a very solid conclusion to the series. It was basically one big action book. Like, it started off with the war, and yeah, that was the entire, yeah, it was a War of the Cards.
Okay.
The cards are like the soldiers in this world. Now, in a summary, so I gave the last book a 3.5. Did I enjoy the books? Yes. Will I read them again? No. Was it worth reading? Yes. And would I recommend it? Yes.
So the next one on my list, I read Defy Me by Tahereh Mafi.
Finally.
Finally. I've been following the Shatter Me series fairly recently. I read through up until Restore Me in January of this year, and ate it up. Defy Me, I gave 5 stars. It is probably my favorite next to Ignite Me. It just blew the whole world we knew as Shatter Me wide open. We spend the first 4 books in one area, and in this book we finally travel outside that area to see the actual world. And holy shit, it's basically on fire.
oh, maybe that's why you didn't visit it before.
Well, but compared to the other ones, there felt to me a drastic shift in tone. Because before it was very rebellious and we're gonna, take over this government, the general trope, girl powers, take over government kind of thing. Ooh. This shifted from taking over the government to just dark. Into this deep, dark chasm of a hole where I'm just sitting on my couch going, what? Huh? And I need Imagine Me. Not next March. At now. I need it now. But I would highly recommend this. It's a girl with superpowers. I mean, what else that's all I need.
I'm down. The next book I'm going to talk about is The Hummingbird Dagger by Cindy Anstey. I gave this one 4 stars. If you look at the cover, it looks like it's going to be kind of like a creepy YA book. It's really not. At least I didn't think it was very creepy. I thought it was a romance. It really felt like a romance to me. But in all honesty, I appreciated the romance. The whole gist of this book is that... So the gist of this book, it takes place in the mid-1800s, and there is a carriage accident that one of our main characters witnesses and his younger brother actually causes, in part. and a girl is thrown out of this carriage, and she's completely unconscious when they find her. And so he, being a gentleman, picks her up and puts her in his carriage and takes her back to his house. Because why not? And she,
Okay.
And so she wakes up and she has no memories of who she is. She doesn't know her name. She doesn't know where she's from. Doesn't know how she got there. And so this is basically a story of them trying to find her lost memories. The book is actually told from a couple different perspectives, all third person. The timetable again on this one, I am reading these really weird books this month. The timetable on this one again was a bit all over the place, and it didn't say, and then 3 months later, it was just like, she had been there a while.
Oh, okay.
Not sure what a while is, but that's okay. I will probably read this book again someday. I did enjoy it quite a bit. I read it in one sitting. I do recommend this one. I think it was good.
So the next book I read was Sky Without Stars by Jessica Brody and Joanne Rendell. So I read this book solely for the fact that it was Les Mis in space. And let me tell you, that's what it was. So I gave this one 4 stars, but that is because I am a huge Les Miserables fan. I've read the original story. I've seen it on stage so many times. I love the movie. I love Les Mis. It is just such a great musical. It's such a powerful story with so many different messages that everybody takes away something different. It is my favorite show. Thoughts. So that's what it was. It was, instead of following Jean Valjean, we follow this book's version of Eponine, Marius, and Cosette. It is in their 3 perspectives. It is only this is the first book. I did enjoy it, but I think to appreciate this book and to fully enjoy it, you have to be a Les Mis fan. Because there was so many little homages. The Cosette's character, her father, who was the Jean Valjean, his name was Hugo after Victor Hugo.
Solid.
So, they pay little homages to the original story. My only worry is, I know this story inside and out. It's called Les Mis, not Les Happies.
Yeah.
It's Les Everyone Dies. So, my only curiosity is if this book is going to follow Les Mis. At the end, it did shift to a different story. Not a different story, but it shifted from the original. So I'm interested to see if that will be where the shift starts, or if, just all these characters I've grown to really like are just gonna die again and rip my heart out like the first time I saw Les Mis. This is a good condensed version, even though this book is huge. But I would recommend it. It's different, but we'll see how different it gets later.
The next book I'm going to talk about is Never Contented Things by Sarah Porter. I give this one a 3. I did not enjoy the first half of this book, and I nearly DNF'd it several times. But once I got past about the halfway point, things shot up. It got a lot better. It really did. So if you do plan on reading this book, I do caution warning at that. There are trigger warnings in this book for basically everything.
Yeah, everything.
Just everything. There's trigger warnings left and right, and that's kind of why the first half of the book is also very difficult, is because that's when almost everything is introduced. The main thing about this book is that it follows a very unhealthy and dependent relationship between 2 best friends, and then they add some magic in there just to make it even more dramatic. And it's a very tough, it got tough at points, but I honestly didn't get attached to any of the characters until 2/3 of the way through the book, because it was still getting through some of that gritty sort of stuff. This book does have Fae in it, and that does play a role. There's kind of a parallel world type thing going on. It's very intense at points, but it was okay. I probably won't read it again. Like I said, it took me half of this book to actually have any interest in it, so I do warn you about that one.
So the next one I read was One of Us is Lying by Karen McManus. I gave this one 3 stars. It was a solid mystery. It was cool. It was really fun to follow. I read this in one sitting. The issues that I had with it is there was a constant change in perspective within the chapters, which I didn't care for. If you're going to switch perspectives, I prefer if it's chapter by chapter. So I did constantly keep looking, be like, who am I following now? Panic, because there's 5 characters that you're following. So it's a lot of shifting, there's a lot of secrets, a lot of reveals. Overall, I think it was a solid mystery. I obviously won't say much because these 2 are reading it soon. But if you're looking for probably an introduction to YA mystery contemporary, I would say this is probably a good one. I don't read a lot of mystery, and I thought this was pretty solid. I just wish that the perspectives didn't constantly change and confuse me.
Alright, next book I'm going to talk about, I'm not going to talk about for very long. It was The Last by Hanna Jameson. I DNF'd this at 20%. I honestly just couldn't care. I couldn't care less about the characters. I had no interest in what was going on. The world ended. That sucks. So I might try this again, but just, I don't care right now, so I stopped reading it.
So the next book I read this month was The Wrong Side of Right by Jenn Thorne. It is about Kate, who finds out that her biological dad is a Republican senator who is also the GOP presidential candidate about 10 months after her mother passes away. It's kind of sad, but kind of nice at the same time. And throughout the story, Kate is figuring out how she fits into her new family while being on the campaign trail. So she has to be in the spotlight. She kind of has to change her appearance. So she's struggling with trying to figure out who she is as a person while trying to figure out how she fits into this new family. Surprisingly, her stepmother is a lot more open than you would expect, just because this is a new daughter that she had no idea existed, and here she is stepping in to be that motherly role even after Kate's mom has passed. There's also a love story that's intertwined, but it's not the overall plot, which I actually really enjoyed. It's a lot more about Kate developing a relationship with her father and her half-siblings and her stepmother. So it's really nice, and I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I gave it a 4-star.
The last book I'm going to talk about is Kingdom of Needle and Bone by Mira Grant. Now, Mira Grant is basically an autobi author for me. I will buy anything that she writes. I just love her writing. This one I did give 4.5. It is a novella, and the only reason is that we've kind of heard a little bit of this story before. But basically the synopsis of this is that there is this new disease that is developed that basically wipes out 1/3 of the world's population in 2 weeks or so. And it basically starts off looking like the measles, and then it just gets worse and worse and basically kills a person's immune system is what they've discovered. Mm-hmm. And the first person who was a little girl in Florida who her aunt is the one who is a doctor working to try and find a cure for this disease. And so her aunt basically gets the backlash of everybody, all of the anti-vaccination people that are like going up against her, being like, no, you're not helping by making everybody vaccinate, you're just getting us more and more sick. And it's very dramatic in that sort of sense. And basically what this doctor, what she decides to do is she's like, all right, we need to get people together who don't have this disease, who have not been exposed to it at all, and we need to get them out. And we need to get them to an island somewhere where where that has not been exposed. And it's basically a 128-page book about them figuring this out. So I highly recommend it.
And the last one that I read for this Reason Reads is Broken Throne by Victoria Aveyard. This is the 4.5 to the Red Queen series. So this is kind of a bunch of different novellas. It's the original 2 novellas from Cruel Crown that's in there. It also has maps, journal entries, and a couple of new stories from after Warstorm. I gave this 4.5 stars because I love the Red Queen series. I know that that's kind of an unpopular opinion because a lot of people hate on it, but the Red Queen series is kind of what got me back into reading after college. It was just something really cool and different that I hadn't seen before. It was the first book I picked up, and I fell in love with the story and the characters. So this one kind of holds a special little place in my heart. But I really enjoyed it. This was everything that I needed after War Storm, since I know a lot of people weren't happy with how War Storm ended. This is the perfect ending to that series. It gave all the answers I wanted. It wrapped up every loose end perfectly, and in the way that, I don't want to say the way I expected, but in a way that made sense for all of these beloved characters that I had grown to really love and get to know over the course of these books.
So currently the last book I've read so far this month is Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia, and the hype is real, guys. The hype is real. I absolutely loved this book. I gave it a 4.5 stars out of 5, and if you don't know, it follows Eliza. She's a senior in high school, floating through trying to get to college. Her main escape is online, following a comic called Monstrous Sea, which is written by Lady Constellation. And that's her secret. She is Lady Constellation. So it's her way of escaping her identity at high school. She jumps online and she's able to get through to her fans. And when this boy, Wallace, transfers to her high school, they quickly become friends. And she finds out that he's the biggest fan fiction writer of her comic. However, she keeps her identity secret after he opens his heart up and tells her his. So it kind of follows the struggle between her wanting to explain herself. One of the biggest themes in this story is her social anxiety and how she handles that throughout the day, going from home where she feels like she's the outcast in this very athletic family to school where she just does not fit in. She's very quiet, she describes herself as very weird. And one reason I very connect with this story is because of my little sister. And so it's just kind of one of those things where I can see my little sister and Eliza. So I really, really enjoyed this book and highly, highly recommend it.
All right, so that's all the books we've read recently. I was the winner this time, so feel free to like, comment, subscribe. We post videos every Tuesday and Friday.
And if you want to be notified when we do post those videos, you can hit the little bell icon below. And all of our social medias are down below. All of our personal Instagrams, and then I have a book review blog.
And don't forget to follow us on Instagram. Our joint Instagram is Callie and Beans Books.
All right, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye!